Mr. Chairman.
The September meeting of the Goochland Planning Commission will now come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gracious God, we come before your throne of grace with thanks and praise. We thank you for all of the blessings of this life, for life and liberty, family, friends, health, and prosperity. And we thank you for allowing us to grow up in a free country as free citizens. We ask you to give us the guidance and wisdom to do what is right for our good citizens here in Goochland County. We ask you to bless our county, our state, our nation, and our troops overseas protecting our freedoms. This we ask in your name, Heavenly Father. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Parker, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Make a motion, recommend approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and properly seconded that the minutes be approved as written. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Parker? We're going to open the citizen comment period now. The citizen comment period is for you to bring anything before the board that is not on tonight's agenda. You have 3 minutes to come forward and state your name and address. So we will begin the citizen comment period. Okay, no one, we'll close the citizen comment period. Ms. Parker?
We have no request to defer additions, deletions, or changes to the order of the public hearings. Our first public hearing item is in District 1, RZ 2020-00004, application by Charles Ryan Perkins requesting a rezoning from agricultural general A1 to residential rural RR of 8.411 acres, identified as a portion of tax map 1-1-0-2-A, located on Broad Street Road, approximately 3/4 of a mile southwest of Duval Road. The applicant plans to create one residential lot for a single-family dwelling. The comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement area.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Tom Coleman, Principal Planner. As Ms. Parker said, the first application is a rezoning located in the far northwestern corner of the county. The subject property and properties to the south and west are generally zoned agriculturally, and properties to the north, especially north across Broad Street Road and to the east, are zoned RR, which is the same zoning district that the applicant is requesting. The subject property and all surrounding properties are designated as a rural enhancement area in the comprehensive plan. Looking at there, a photo that does reflect the generally rural nature of the surrounding area. I'm looking at a plat. You can see again a close-up of the property, and if you note the rectangle, that's the approximate location where the house is proposed to be located. The property owner owns an existing 25.3-acre parcel, which does not include a dwelling. The applicant does plan to create one new 8-acre parcel to create one additional building lot. At 8.4 acres, the new parcel would not be large enough to be subdivided into 2 lots. The parent tract is zoned agriculturally. However, all the by right splits have been taken from the parent tract. Therefore, the property must be rezoned to a residential zoning district in order to file the subdivision application. Since this application is only for one additional parcel, the cash proper policy does not apply to this application. There was a community meeting held in November. No neighbors or other members of the public attended, and there were no concerns identified. And that concludes my presentation on this application. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, would the applicant like to speak? Okay, we'll now open the public hearing. Okay, we will now close the public hearing. Gentlemen?
It's in your district, isn't
Yep,
it? Yeah.
I'll make a motion to
comments?
approve. I'll second.
okay. A motion has been made and properly second that we recommend this application for approval. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Ms. Parker?
Our next item is also in District 1, CU 2010-00004A, application by Edward Tyler, requesting renewal of a conditional use permit, CU 2010-00004, for an automobile graveyard on tax map 9-1-0-6-0, located at 4060 Shannon Hill Road. The property is owned agricultural general A1 and is 8.273 acres. The conditional use permit is required by Goochland County zoning ordinance, section 15-102. The comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement area.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. As Ms. Parker said, this is a renewal of a conditional use permit that was previously approved. This is also located in the far western portion of the county. The subject property and all of the surrounding properties share an agricultural zoning. And the subject property and all surrounding properties are also designated as a rural enhancement area in the comprehensive plan. Looking at the aerial photo, you note a number of buildings on the site. There is a dwelling. Most of those buildings are associated with the businesses that operate on the property. This application relates to the automobile graveyard use. Most of the vehicles are located along the rear of the property, and sort of you may notice them on the aerial photo towards the back side of the property. A little bit of background on the site. The parcel does include a single-family dwelling, a retail office building, and outbuildings which support the businesses on the property. The applicant resides in the dwellings and operates the businesses. The used vehicle repair, the sales lot, and the automobile graveyard have operated on the property for many years with an approved business license. In fact, all three uses existed prior to the adoption of the county's zoning ordinance in 1969, so they all at one time were grandfathered. However, the automobile graveyard expanded over time, and grandfathered uses are not allowed to expand. Therefore, it did require approval of the CUP for the automobile graveyard use to comply with the county codes, and the applicant did obtain that CUP approval in 2010. As far as the automobile graveyard more specifically, the applicant indicated the primary purpose is a source of parts for restoration and repair of the vehicles for sale, and the vehicles are occasionally sold as scrap metal. The automobile graveyard vehicles are located primarily towards the rear of the property, and although the property is about 600 feet deep, the vehicles are visible from the roadway. In May of 2010, in relation to the previous application, county staff did count 275 vehicles on the site that were associated with the auto graveyard. In June of this year, staff went to the site and counted 220 vehicles associated with the auto graveyard use. Just a couple of pictures. Looking at the top, there are automobile sales here, and most of those are located in the paved area closer to Shannon Hill Road. The other picture to the top, sort of the Shannon Hill Road to the back, just sort of indicates that the vehicles reflects the fact that the vehicles are visible from the roadway. And just some of the close-up pictures just demonstrates that the vehicles are in various states of repair or disrepair. There was a community meeting in July of this year. There were 7 adjoining property owners attended the meeting, but no one expressed concern with the renewal of the CUP at that meeting. Planning does have did identify a couple of implications with the site. There's a desire to reduce the number of vehicles over time. The vehicles are visible from Shannon Hill Road, and the CUP process allows for a gradual and orderly reduction in the size of the automobile graveyard, allowing the business to continue, but decreasing the number of vehicles over time. While there were no neighborhood concerns expressed at the community meeting, a few people have contacted staff subsequent to that meeting and have described the inoperable vehicles as unsightly. The recommended conditions, a lot of these reflect the conditions that were approved in 2010 with a little bit of some housekeeping and updates to them. The first use does allow the automobile graveyard use on the property. The second one does require the removal of fluids and petroleum products and batteries from the vehicles, from the automobile graveyard vehicles. The third one does require that all tire piles be removed from the property or stored within a building. Number 4, concerning vehicle removal, that does require the applicant to remove 5 vehicles per year to reduce the number down from the 227. Also being carried forward, there was a setback requirement that all the auto graveyard vehicles be at least 200 feet from Shannon Hill Road. Number 7 would require at the termination of the business that all the automobile graveyard vehicles would be removed within 1 year. Number 8, just if there's any new outdoor lighting that's installed, they would need to obtain a lighting plan and abide by that lighting plan. Number 9 does give the expiration date, 15 years to October of 2035. And the last condition would be our standard condition regarding the transfer lease of the property. And that concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
It's only been two complaints, and that was recently with,
I wouldn't say that they filed complaints. They did reach out to staff concerning the application and said they do find the cars unsightly.
he's been doing the same thing since 1960, or before 1969.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Would the applicant like to speak? Okay. Okay. We'll now open the public hearing. Please come forward, state your name and address. Okay, we shall close the public hearing.
I move we accept it as it's presented.
Second?
Okay, motion has been made and properly seconded. We recommend this application for approval. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay? The ayes have it. The application will be recommended for approval. Ms. Parker?
Our next item is also in District 1, CU 2009-00009A. Application by Sylvester and Robbin Bryce requesting renewal of conditional use permit CU 2009-00009 for a professional office on tax map number 17-1-0-79-0 located at 2744 Haydensville Pike Road. The property is zoned agricultural general A1 and is 2.97 acres. The conditional use permit is required by Goochland County zoning ordinance section 15-102. The comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement area.
Thanks again, Ms. Parker. Again, this is an application to renew a previously approved conditional use permit. This is also located in the western part of the county. The subject property and all the surrounding properties share an agricultural zoning. The subject property and all the abutting properties are designated as a rural enhancement area in the comprehensive plan. There is a public county-owned institutional use associated with the elementary school just to the south of the property. Looking at the aerial photo, you can see there's a couple of buildings on the property associated with this use. Brief summary, in 2010, the applicants did obtain an original CUP to allow conversion of an existing single-family dwelling into an office. The applicant owns a construction company, the Fife Mechanical Incorporated. The applicants received all the necessary PUD and change of use approvals to convert that dwelling into an office. In the 2010 approval, there were a number of conditions, and most of those conditions you will see again reflected in the recommended conditions at the end of the presentation. No exterior storage of building supplies, a maximum of 6 employees reporting to this office location, limited to 1 sign, 16 square feet in area, and limiting any future expansion of the existing buildings to 200 square feet And again, the expiration date on this has been increased from a recommendation of 10 years to a recommendation of 15 years. And looking again at the conditions, the first condition does allow the professional office use to be operated on the site. The second one does limit the number of employees that report to the site at 6, and it does sort of clarify that clients or customers are not permitted at this location, or are not permitted on the property at this location. And the buildings, all the buildings shall continue to maintain a residential appearance. The building expansion is limited to 200 square feet. The fifth one is no outside storage of materials on the property. The sixth one is that limit to one sign, and also that the sign should not be internally lit. The number 7 would limit the hours of operation to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. The eighth one, if there is any exterior lighting that's installed on the property, that they would obtain a lighting plan for that lighting. The expiration date would be extended to 2035. And the last condition is our standard condition relating to the transfer or lease of the property. And that concludes my presentation.
The,
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, the limit for 6 people in the office, that's due to the septic.
That was approved with the previous application.
Right, thank you.
Okay, would the applicant like to speak? Okay. We'll now open the public hearing. You'll come forward, state your name and address. I'm gonna close the public hearing. Ms. Parker? Oh, yeah. What are you doing? Gentlemen, what say you?
I would like to make a motion for recommending approval.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and properly seconded. We recommend for approval. Any other discussion?
Who had the second?
Oh,
Who was,
I think it was Carter.
Carter?
It was Carter, okay.
Faster one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
No.
Okay. Let's take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, recommended for approval. Ms. Parker?
Our last item tonight is also in District 1, CU 2020-00007, application by Joseph Liesfeld Jr., requesting a conditional use permit for a public assembly place, unhosted, short-term rental, campground retail use, private landing area for aircraft and commercial recreation, located at all the tax map numbers listed on the agenda, which is also addresses 6260, 6270, and 6276 River Road West, and 6341, 6345, 6351, and 6355 Old Columbia Road. The property is zoned agricultural general A1 and is approximately 1,025.01 acres. The conditional use permit is required by Goochland County Zoning Ordinance, Section 15-102, in accordance with Section 15-285.g and 15-290. The comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement area.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm Jamie Sherry. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Development. The property is located in also in District 1, the far western portion of the county. Actually, it's to the south. It is located approximately 1 mile east of the Fluvanna County line and is just north of Route 6. The comprehensive plan identifies this area and surrounding areas as rural enhancement area. The property is zoned A1 agricultural general, as is the surrounding area. If you look at the aerial map, the subject property is made up of 20 separate parcels, totaling over 1,000 acres. As you can see from the aerial, it's surrounded mostly by farmland and larger lot single-family development. I just wanted to point this out to you. The subject property is, for the most part, grayed out right in the middle. This indicates, the hash area indicates the subdivisions that are in the area. There's the Stonehouse subdivision is adjacent to this parcel, so is the Bull Bluffs subdivision, but notably, the subject property actually has 4 lots that are a part of the James River Farms. This property does not abut to any of the interior roads. It does go right up to Old Columbia Road. And this case was, there was no zoning case associated with this subdivision. It was a by right subdivision, so there's no proffers limiting what can be done with the property. So the existing use of the property, known as Rassawick, has a vineyard and has been used to host events, including weddings, rehearsal dinners, workshops, company retreats, charitable events, festivals, sporting activities, and other similar activities. The Rassawick Spring Jubilee is a festival that draws about 10,000 people over a series of a weekend, and has been held each summer for nearly 10 years. There are existing CUPs on the property. In 2004, there was a conditional use issued for a 110-foot fire tower. In 2012, there was a conditional use permit approved for a place of public assembly, a bed and breakfast, and some recreational events. In 2014, there was a conditional use permit for a commercial sawmill that was approved. If tonight's request is approved, the uses from the 2012 conditional use permit will be incorporated into this permit, into one permit, and the fire and sawmill conditional use permits will not become part of this. They will continue to stand alone. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit to allow a place of public assembly. They specifically have asked for some medium and large events to be included. Unhosted short-term rental, a small campground, a retail use, a landing area for a private aircraft, and commercial recreation. Specifically related to their request for a public place of assembly, they're asking to be able to hold weddings, rehearsal dinners, retirement parties, workshops, company retreats, concerts, festivals, other social events, charitable events, and sportsman events involving activities such as equestrian, fox hunting, fishing, hiking, and mountain biking. That last bullet point is reflective of the recreational uses that were identified in the 2012 conditional use permit. So that would be counted in as some of the events. So the reason they are requesting a new permit for the place of public assembly is because the existing permit does not have additional parcels. So this request, as we mentioned, are for all 20 parcels that make up Rassawick. So they've identified on the conditional use, on the conceptual plan as to where these items will be located, but this conditional use permit does go for the entire property. In addition to the additional parcels, they wanted to add both a limited number of medium and large events that would allow that were previously allowed only through the special event permit. So if this request is approved, the applicant would no longer have to apply for the special event process to receive a permit for a limited number of the medium and large events. That would include the Rassawick Spring Jubilee. So to get into more detail about what they're requesting as far as the events go, they're requesting up to 4 large events, and we define large events as events with over 1,000 attendees, and this is for a calendar year. They also are requesting 6 medium events with attendees ranging between 250 and 1,000 attendees, and an unlimited number of events with attendees less than 250. I know this is kind of hard to see, which is why I put those red arrows on the screen. The areas that I'm pointing at are generally where these events will be held. It's pink on the paper, but on the exhibit, but I wanted to make sure you all could see it with the arrows. The applicant is also requesting to be able to have unhosted short-term rentals, and this is defined by renting a unit for less than 30 days. The 2012 conditional use permit actually permitted them to have a bed and breakfast. Since 2012, short-term rentals actually include in our definition in the zoning ordinance short-term rentals. So this is where that portion of the 2012 would fall into this conditional use permit. Specifically, they are requesting to be able to rent 8 units. They're wanting to do 2 cabins, 3 train cars that will be converted into housing, and then 3 other units are proposed for future development. In addition to any conditions that are imposed with this conditional use permit, the applicant also would have to comply with section 15-285G of the county code. This requires them to register with the county and to basically follow general oversight, of how the property is maintained. Again, with the Exhibit A, I have identified the locations of where these units will be located. They're blue on the exhibit, but again, it's hard to see on the screen. The applicant is requesting a small campground. They're proposing to have 10 campsites. The intent is to use these campsites during larger events for vendors, but also wants to keep the option of using the campsites outside of the festival settings, but under limited circumstances. They also have indicated that the campsites would be for both tent and recreational vehicle camping, and that the campers would have access to 2 full bathrooms and showers. On the conceptual plan, where the arrows are pointing, where these 2 green areas are, that's where the campsite are proposed or located kind of centrally within the property. The applicant is also proposing to have a retail use, specifically a country store. They say that they will sell prepackaged food, drinks, and merchandise. The store will be open during festivals and certain days to the public. The store will be constructed in a historic 736 square foot building that they already plan to construct it in, and they do not plan to have daily hours. I'm not sure, maybe the applicant will be able to clarify. I'm not sure if this building's already on the property or not, or if it has a specific location, but it was not identified on the conceptual plan. The applicant is also requesting to have a private airstrip. They plan to fly antique aircrafts to be displayed during events, to host event guests, and for airplane demonstrations. So it would be for personal use only. We did hear of one citizen concern, which we shared with the applicant. Someone was, the original conceptual plan that they submitted and they had in their original presentations had the airstrip, which is identified here with the arrow, that yellow line. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting that to work. It was actually located much closer to the property line, and people were just concerned that it was a little bit close, so the applicant has moved to the general location of it.
What's the length of the airstrip?
It's undetermined. This is just something that they have conceptual. They would have to meet all federal aviation and Virginia aviation requirements, so it would be something that I guess would be consistent with whatever they would have for a small airport. So, the applicant is here. They might be able to elaborate on that as well. For commercial recreation, they would like to have a small zip line course. The zip line would be open during large events, and again, they would like to keep the option to have it limited days to the public. There it is. They showed 2 courses, 2 small courses on the conceptual plan, and those are identified where the arrows are, just so you can see generally where they're located. There was a community meeting held on July 23rd. Board members, Ms. Lascolette and Mr. Sharp, were in attendance, along with Planning Commission members, Mr. Myers and Mr. Duke, and approximately 30 citizens were in attendance. There were questions about future access to the property. The applicant indicated that they were not planning on any new future access to the property, and several individuals spoke in favor of the proposed activities. The comprehensive plan, if this request is consistent with the rural strategies goal to support agricultural activities and value-added agricultural businesses to encourage economic vitality. As far as planning implications, I know there's a lot of things that the applicant is, a lot of activities that the applicant is proposing, but the size of the subject property along with the proposed conditions, which I'll go through in a minute, will minimize the impact of this use on the surrounding properties. There are a number of conditions. I'm going to go through them. I'm not going to read them verbatim, but I'd be happy to stop and elaborate if anything is unclear. So the first section identifies conditions that would regulate all of the uses. These would be for all the different uses as well as what the actual use is. So the first condition, this condition states that the 2012 uses that are included with this permit, and that the sawmill and the fire tower conditional use permits are not part of this, as I said earlier. Number 2 says the uses, excuse me, this condition says that the conditions that I'm about to say apply to all of the uses within the CUP, all the CUP activities. Then, of course, I've shown you the conceptual plan. It says that the property shall be developed in accordance with the conceptual plan. Number 4, this states that the previously approved 2012 CUP for the uses can continue under the existing PUD. Any expansion of the uses that would be permitted if this were approved would need a new plan of development before they could start those activities. Number 5, for access roads, this states that all CUP activities, including parking areas, must have access that public safety can get to if they need. This is, number 6 is a 10-year CUP. It will expire in 10 years, October of 2030. And again, our traditional transfer lease, if they sell or lease the property to somebody else, county needs to be notified. The conditions that are specific to place of public assembly, the use actually specifically says weddings, rehearsal dinners, retirement parties, workshops, company retreats, concerts, festivals, other social events, charitable events, and sportsman events involving activities such as equestrian, ox hunting, fishing, hiking, and mountain biking. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this next condition actually limits the number of events and the size of events. Just to recap, large events are for those that are over 1,000 attendees. They're asking for 4. Medium-sized events, which are 250 to 1,000 attendees, they are asking for a maximum of 6 events of that size. And for small events, 250 attendees, they're asking for that to be unlimited. Hours of operations for the place of public assembly would occur between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. This is exclusive of setup and breakdown time. Number 11, any alcohol consumption would have to abide by any of the Virginia ABC laws. Any necessary permits would need to be obtained. Oops, sorry, I forgot to flip my, there we go. Fireworks, number 12. The applicant is, the condition allows the applicant to have 3 fireworks events during a calendar year, and for each one of those, they would be required to obtain the necessary permits. An annual schedule. A schedule of large and medium events would be, must be submitted to our zoning administrator, and any update, any changes would need to be updated monthly. Number 14, event tents. Tents that require permits must get permits, and the tents must be removed within 7 days of the end of the event's conclusion. So I had mentioned that the applicant is requesting to have some larger and medium-sized events. Those events typically are the ones that you would have to go through the event process, the special event permit process in order to be able to hold them. These next set of conditions pertain to those large and medium-sized events. And the language in the beginning is actually consistent with what our event permit states. So just going through them real quickly. A requires the applicant to notify the fire and rescue and sheriff's and health department 30 days prior to each of the large and medium events. They will then have a dialogue, and anything that the health department, sheriff, or fire rescue find that they need to do to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their attendees, they will be required to do. Public safety inspections. This has to do with allowing those agencies to actually enter the property as they would if they were doing a special event permit to basically check out the vendors, make sure everything's being run safely. Uniform security. The sheriff's office will determine the numbers of security personnel needed at each event, and that security personnel may be a uniformed law officer from Goochland, or the state police, or a private security personnel that is properly insured, bonded, and licensed. D, emergency medical services will need to be provided for these events, and fire and rescue department will determine the numbers and types of medical services that will be required for each event. Sanitation. This involves regulating the number of toilets and hand washing facilities and trash cans. This will be determined by the Virginia Health Department, and essentially based on the type of event that they're having, they will determine what will be needed. And trash that accumulates on the property, trash can't accumulate on the property, so it must be properly disposed of when the event is over. Moving on, F is for regulates the food vendors. Each food vendor must meet the applicable food safety regulations and must have a valid Goochland County business license, and each vendor must have a fire extinguisher. Non-food vendors must have a Goochland County business license. And traffic control. The Virginia Department of Transportation must be notified 60 days prior to event. If VDOT determines that a traffic plan must be determined they need one, they will work with VDOT to ensure that there's a proper safe traffic control. Moving on to the next permitted use is for a campground. That's what number 16 is. Number 17, a Virginia Department of Health permit must be obtained prior to allowing overnight guests, and it must be compiled within the operation of the campground use. They are allowed up to, based on number 18, up to 10 campsites. There is a limitation in number 19 on amplified sound, and outdoor music cannot go beyond 10 p.m. Number 20, each of their guests must be notified of the sound and music restrictions. And lastly, for campgrounds, number 21, again, no guest may stay for more than 30 consecutive nights. The applicant is also requesting the use of short-term rentals unhosted. That is what would be allowed with number 22. Again, with the 30-day maximum stay, that's kind of your general short-term rental requirements, so they must meet that. Ordinance compliance, the rental use must be registered and operated in accordance with Section 285G. As I mentioned before, that's basically they need to register the use with the county and then provide some oversight for the guests while they are there. Number 25, maximum overnight occupancy. The number of overnight occupants for each structure cannot exceed the lesser number permitted by the Virginia Department of Health regulations, or a maximum of 10 persons per unit. And that would be based on either septic, or if it has a really good septic, no more than 10 people. A smoke alarm and carbon monoxide monitor shall be located in each of the structures for rent. Number 27, no outdoor amplified sound is permitted, no outdoor music after 10 p.m. Number 28, similar to the campsite, the guest must be notified of both the maximum people allowed in the structure and the amplified sound and music requirements. For retail use, they may operate a retail use on the property, and the size of the building shall be limited to 5,000 square feet. We do recognize that they actually said they are only proposing like the 736 square foot structure, but in the event they do want to expand, we wanted to give them the opportunity to expand without them, as we discussed, allowing them to put a Walmart on the property. So we picked the number 5,000 square feet. The retail use may be open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is consistent with pretty much all the other hours that we have included in this permit, the conditions for the permit. Moving on to the private airstrip. The use of a private airstrip may be operated on the property. The airstrip is limited to personal use by the property owner and their guest and attendees at assembly activities involving aircraft demonstrations or rides. Number 32, airstrip lighting. Lighting of the airstrip is not permitted. This essentially limits the use to daytime uses for landings and takeoffs. Number 33, this goes to what we were talking about. Any airstrip must be operated in compliance with all applicable requirements and permits of the FAA and the Virginia Department of Aviation. So I don't claim to be an expert on what it takes to have it, but if they go through the process of placing their airstrip, they'll have to go through the regulations of those who are the experts. Number 34, inoperable aircraft storage, aircraft part storage, any aircraft repair, and any aircraft repairs must occur only inside a fully enclosed roof structure in the event that the applicant states that he currently does not own a plane, but in the event they do purchase a plane, this would be some of the requirements. Number 35, there's also requirements for aircraft fuel. Aircraft fuel stored on the property must be located more than 75 feet from the exterior boundaries of the property. Aircraft fuel storage must comply with all applicable state and federal regulations. Number 36, structure. Any structure constructed for this use must be located associated with this use must be located more than 75 feet from an exterior boundaries of the property. If they were to put a personal hangar for either themselves or their guests, it would have to be located off the property. For their request for commercial recreation, this is associated with the zip line. The use allows for a zip line. And number 38, not number 2. the zip line would be required to both have amusement permits and any other building inspection requirements associated with it. So it would have to get inspected and make sure it was constructed properly. And lastly, under commercial recreation, hours of operation, again, this has been consistent with each of the other uses. It may be open to the public between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. I am available for any questions you might have for me. I mentioned the applicant is also here, and so I know they plan to speak as well.
Ms. Sherry, thank you for your presentation. Do you know if there are plans for water and sewer and electrical hookup for the recreational vehicles?
There's nothing planned right now. This is all kind of, I believe the applicant is, it's conceptual for them. I think this is something that they may want to do in the future. So when I spoke with the health department, I was asking a little bit about what the requirements were and if they had, if it could be self-contained or not. And there's different types of permits depending on what they would be ultimately wanting to do. So whatever they're planning to do, they would have to meet whatever the health department would require.
Thank you.
I got a question regarding the assembly usages, the limits, because there's no way to control how many people show up for a particular event unless you really physically cap them at the gate. So if they're planned on a medium event, and let's say 1,200 people show up, then that takes away one of the large events that they have, right?
Yeah, the applicant would have to be very careful to monitor that. One of the ways that I know that I was able to say how many people show up for the wine festival, they have a certain number of tickets that they sell. So that could be a way that they can control the number of folks who they allow into the event.
But like the Restwick Spring Festival, I mean, there's no way to really control how many people show up, so.
Well, they can't get in without a ticket. So they sell 10,000 tickets. So that means that they potentially have 10,000 attendees. It's not something that they don't.
So they go sell tickets for each one of these events,
That would be one way for them to control it, yeah.
but they don't have to.
I suppose not. Maybe there would be a way to be able to know if they went over their numbers or not, but that could be a potential way for us to know.
And how do we know that they went over if they don't? I'm just saying,
No, that's.
if they go over it, then they lose the next higher event.
That's how it would
Basically.
work, but you're correct. At this point in time, I would not know. I mean, I guess, they could report how many tickets they have for sale, and we could match it up with ultimately what they end up doing.
Is the airport, or the airstrip,
Excuse me.
is that functional 365 days a year for use?
Yeah, the way the conditions are written right now, it does not have a limit. The applicant has indicated that that's not their intent, but the way it's written right now, there is no limitation.
And any limit to how many planes can land in a day, or?
There's not.
I'm also confused about the cup regarding the sawmill and the fire tower. Do those have to be dismantled?
No, they will continue to operate under their existing conditional use permits. It turns out that I believe it was the sawmill most recently went through a renewal. And as of right now, both of those conditional use permits they do not have an expiration date. But they can continue to operate as.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, they actually prepared a presentation that Ms. Parker's going to.
Hi. I'm Jessica Jesse. I work for Rastwick and will be speaking on behalf of the Liesfeld family. I also have Joe up here with me if there are any super technical questions that come up. Are you guys okay if we?
Would you state your address, please?
I'm sorry,
State your address.
the address of the property?
Your home address.
Oh, 2937 Sandy Hook Road, Sandy Hook, Virginia, 23153.
Thank you.
Would you also speak into the microphone, please?
Oh,
Sure.
You can maneuver it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
So we have submitted the CUP, and we just wanted to kind of give a little bit more insight into what our intentions are. We've got a lot of things that we've added onto it, so we thought it might be helpful to just give a little bit more background on what we're planning to do. So just a little bit of an overview of Rasslewick. The Liesfeld family purchased the property in 2000, and since then they have been adding beautiful historic buildings that have been slated for demolition, and have saved them and moved them up to the property. And so that's kind of part of our mission, is to continue saving these old things and bringing them up to Rasslewick for the public to be able to enjoy and see a few times a year. And we have also started a nonprofit in 2017 called Rasslewick Ventures. So that nonprofit runs our large event, the Rasslewick Spring Jubilee, and we'll be running our future other large event, the Rasslewick Autumn Festival. So with these events, we like to open up the property to residents of Goochland and beyond, and let them have a chance to see the property. The family is really passionate about showing how things were done, how to work with your hands. And so the Spring Jubilee is a wine, art, and kind of craft festival. And so we have a lot of handmade items that are there. And then the Autumn Festival will feature more trade skills that people can come and see. And so the nonprofit, we put the events on, and then we give back to those organizations within the county that come and support the events, and other great nonprofits within Goochland with the remaining proceeds. Sorry, could you go to the, do I have it? Okay, sorry. So we talked about the two current events that we have. The Rasslewick Spring Jubilee is our large event that we've been holding for almost 10 years now. And then in the fall of 2021, we hope to have our first annual Autumn Festival. But we also currently do some smaller events. So we hold a couple workshops in one of our barns where people can come and make some wreaths or put together some bouquets. And we hope to continue adding more workshops in the future. And the property is available for rent for weddings or other private events. So Jamie touched on a lot of what we are proposing for our future plans. So we are requesting a place of public assembly, and I can kind of go into a little bit more detail about the question that you had about how we kind of monitor who's coming in and out. So the Spring Jubilee is our largest event that we hold currently, and we have a front gate system. Before the event, people can buy tickets online, but we do offer it to the public to where people can come and buy a ticket at the gate. But we have specific software that we use that are counting the tickets as we are selling them at the gate. So we know beforehand how many people bought them online, and then we have the software that's counting them as people are coming through. So that's not to say that we can't, people will show up. We're not sure how many, but as far as the larger events are concerned, we're hoping to hold them the same way as the Spring Jubilee, as you can come to the gate and buy a ticket. Our intention with the medium to smaller events is to have those tickets for advance purchase that you can purchase online, so we'll be able to control that a little bit better. We currently don't really have any medium-sized events set up, so that still might be a little bit of experimenting, but that is kind of our thought process at the moment for the medium and smaller events. The camping, right now we're thinking of this as a lot of the times for our Spring Jubilee, our vendors like to stay overnight because they are coming from out of town, so we're hoping to have these primitive camping spots available for them to pitch a tent, because it is a couple days for them to stay there during the festivals. And the short-term rentals, so as Jamie stated, we have 2 cabins, and then we'll have 3 train cars. Each of the train cars will have 1 bedroom. And then hopefully some future additional sites that we would like to add onto the short-term rentals. They will have, the guests who are staying will have access to only certain parts of the property while they're staying, and we intend to have gates at the entrances to where only those guests are able to come and go when we're not open to the public. The retail space, our plan is to have this open on the weekends, certain weekends starting off, to be able to invite people to come to the property, and, you know, just enjoy the space for the weekend if they wanted to come and picnic or, you know, go fishing. So that is a building that will be moved. It's been moved, 736 square feet. The airstrip, that is intended to be a small grass airstrip, private use. Like Jamie stated, we currently don't have a plane, but we would like to include this as it's something that has been discussed. We're just not sure when that may be. And it would be for private use, or if we potentially had an antique aircraft show exhibition.
Do you know approximately what the length of the airstrip would be and what the setback to the closest neighbor would be?
Joe Liesfeld, 2156 Prophet Road, Mannequin-Savage. We do not have an exact footage. It's basically a conceptual drawing, but I would have estimated it'd probably be at least 2,000 feet, something like that.
And then how close would that be to the closest neighbor, the end of the airstrip?
Probably to the south would be the Stoneman property. It would probably be within 500 to 800 feet, something like that.
Thank you.
So, in concept. So, but it you know, it would be smaller planes, not anything big.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have the recreational activities, which is a zip line, and so that would have 2 lines running across the property, where people could go from one point to another point. And we intend to have this open during the festivals, and then if we are open on the weekends, we'd like to give people that option. And within talking to some of the companies that we're working with, you know, there's, you know, they would help us build it and inspect it, and we would have trained staff that would have yearly training that they would have to be recertified for every year to be able to work the zip line. But that's just a little bit more information, so if you have any other more technical questions, we're happy to answer them.
One more. What's the approximate daily attendance of the Spring Jubilee?
I think the most that we've had daily, and Jenny, you might be able to answer this better, is about 3,500. Is that give or take? Mm-hmm.
Depends on the weather.
Right.
Absolutely.
Could you explain a little bit what you intend on concerts? The reason I ask that, we turned down a concert venue in West Creek last year because of the crowd control and the noise and the size
Right.
and the vendors and a whole lot of things to do with parking and all. And I wonder whether you're thinking of a small concert or a big band, or what you have in mind.
So we have that within our medium event, which is a 250 to 1,000 attendees. So, you know, we're not looking to bring out Garth Brooks or, you know, something like that. But, you know, we would like to have a few concerts, maybe some local artists, and have a limited number of tickets available for those.
Because security was a big issue, and alcohol was a big issue when we turned that one down.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we,
consideration.
These concerts would have to be acoustic because there's no amplified sound allowed outside. So each concert would be acoustic.
is that your intent? No?
I thought Ms. Sherry presented that there would be no amplified sound, no amplified music outdoors.
What we would like to have is electronic music. I mean, it's not
I understand, but she stated that there was no amplified music outdoors.
Was that just for the guests? I'm not,
Mr. Patak?
Yes.
The amplified music references were for the campground and the short-term rental. That's not a condition that, as it pertains to the assembly, public assembly
Oh,
place.
okay, all right, thank you, that makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
any other questions?
Thank you. Okay, we'll now open the public hearing. Please, if you have a comment, please come forward, state your name and address. Well, we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, what say you?
Carter?
I don't see any issue with it at all. I mean, I think there's, we need to be wise and open, but I mean, I think they're using it for what they're using it for now. They just want to continue to do it.
Pretty much. It's been out there, no complaints, and then been any problem, they haven't been any problem at all so
Yeah.
far.
Nobody spoke at the community meeting against it. I mean, so the neighbors are happy with it.
Nope, yep.
I don't have any further questions.
No.
I make a motion to approve the applicant.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been made and properly second that we approve the application. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The application is approved. Okay, Ms. Parker, any old business?
No old business,
Any other business?
no other business.
We have a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
We stand adjourned.